although the
Hey.
Hey, hello. Hi,
hello, good
everyone.
morning.
Good morning. This is our third or fourth?
Third or
Third.
fourth?
The third.
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 Yeah.
Our
Wow,
third live
going
Q&A
fast.
here at the Valiant team we're putting together. And today we're going to do something that's very near and dear to my heart. I don't know if that's the right way to put it. It's multi-factor authentication, or MFA for short. You might also hear it called two-factor, but that's not really a great term because it kind of denotes only two factors. But we'll get into a little history of what it means and all that sort of thing. So we got some questions here that we have queued up. And once again, if you have any live questions, please fire them to us. We love live questions. Throw us a snowball, throw us a curveball, whatever it is. We'll try to answer it. All right. So our first thing is I'm going to throw this to the panel here. What is MFA? Go.
All right. So if you've ever gotten one of those texts when you go to log into something and it says send this number, we sent you a text, put in this number, that's two-factor or multi-factor authentication. The idea behind it is to have more than one thing, more than one factor to prove that you are who you are when you're going to access something. Normally we do single factor, which is, well, let's break down what that factor is, what that means.
Yeah, what does
those
that
are.
mean exactly?
So there's generally in security, you break down access to things based on a challenge and response. And some of those are things that are either what you know, what you have, or who you are. And what you know is the one we're most familiar with. I know my password. Nobody else knows my password. If I know the password, I can get in. And that's the basic factor. Second factor, usually what gets added is what you have. And that's something like having access to your phone when you're getting a text message, or access to your email when that code gets sent, or an app that has a code on it. So by having two factors, you're saying, oh, look, if I know my password. If somebody else knows my password, they don't have the second thing, and you need both to get in, and that's what makes it more secure.
I think it's a great example that everyone uses every day. That helped me understand this better like years ago when I first started learning this, and that was the ATM card example. Maybe we can kind of go through that one.
Definitely, yeah. That's what you have. You take your ATM card, you have it, and you put it in the machine. And what you know your PIN. And if you know somebody's PIN but don't have their card, you can't get money out of the ATM. If you have their card but don't know their PIN, you can't get money out. So that's two factors. You have to have both of them for it to work.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, that's why I always protect your PIN.
Yeah.
Don't lose your card, and be careful with
Don't
the card
write it on the back of your card.
Don't write it back of your card. That's the other thing. Very cool. It's super interesting. And like, what are some good examples of MFA? Like, well, actually, let me back up for a second, because I think that one of the issues that a lot of people have is they don't really understand. Well, I have my password. I know my password. Everything's secured. Why do I need this thing? What purpose does it really serve? So,
I mean, well, one thing is, do you know how many other people know your password? You might not. We talk about that a little bit in our security best practices stuff, where we talk about password practices, which help if you have a strong password and you don't repeat passwords, which is huge. And we talked a little bit about that on Monday. That's great. But at the same time, there are things beyond your control. Even big companies have data breaches and your password can get out. So that's part of the reason why you need a second factor. Another one is just maybe it's not as strong as you think. Maybe, the data breach is huge. Maybe you accidentally shared it and you didn't realize. If you're one of those Post-it note people, you know what? People have seen your password. I know I went to a client once and they were like, oh, let's just meet in this room. And I went, oh, hey, I can access your PayPal account. So maybe don't do that. So that's another reason why you want to have that, is just, it's another cover yourself, but you don't actually know who has your password.
Right. Yeah. And it's really important. Yeah. It's just so much more security than just a simple password. And, once again, you can use simpler passwords, passphrases, things you can remember, which as opposed to having to have these super 22 character non-English language words, that sort of thing. Right.
I love passphrases that are like song lyrics, because you can do something like, Can't Get Enough of Your Love, Babe, but when can't's got an apostrophe in it, so you've got a special character.
Right.
You can end it with an exclamation point if you want, but it's easy for you to remember. But how many people are going to think that that's your thing? But don't use that example because I just told everybody.
Don't use that one. Right.
Don't use that one. No.
Right. Exactly.
But that is fun. Anyway, so we should probably get back from two-factor as
awesome.
well.
So, and one of the other this kind of critical questions we got here was, what kind of protect with two-factor? What kind of protect with it? So, what do you mean? Oh, hold on a second. We got a live question. Hold on. What do you say to people who are resistant to change? It's too annoying. I don't need it. I just changed my password.
I'll tell you one of the number one things is that two-factor authentication, when it comes to valuing your security and valuing your data, two-factor auth is honestly one of the easiest, simplest, freest ways that you can just add an incredible amount of protection. Like changing your password, okay. Yeah, I mean, someone can also get that new password, especially if you change it to something that's similar. Oh, I made it a 2 instead of a 1. It's not that, but even if you make a really secure new password, it's still just that one thing that needs to be breached in the future. So you don't know necessarily, again, when your stuff gets breached, unless you're following every single news article. And even then, some of them don't get reported till much later.
Right.
I mean, how many times have we seen, there was a breach in 2017? What?
I know, seriously.
So my stuff's been out for 3 years. And it's the ratio of the effort and cost you have to put in to get that huge amount of extra security. It's literally exponential. It's a whole nother thing. So
awesome.
That's what I say. It's if you're lazy, this is the thing to do. This is the one.
Another great comment, another question, comment kind of that came in through the live chat was, it's great for protecting you if you get phished and put your password by accident to a fake site. And maybe we could talk about that a little bit, just how that protects against that.
Yeah, that if you've got two-factor turned on and you're going to, there's some phishing scams or just email that comes in to try to trick you into giving your credentials. They'll say things like, oh, your Dropbox account has been locked. You need to log into your account here and reset your password. And they'll take you to a page that looks like Dropbox login or Facebook login or whatever they're trying to spoof and ask you to log in. And whatever you put in, they're going to say, great, success, done, because all they were doing is harvesting your password. Then they'll redirect you to the real Dropbox and you're logged in because they got your stuff and it looks like it was fine. So with two-factor, you would, first of all, they wouldn't be able to get in after that because you have your code and you'd get a notice that somebody was trying to log in when they tried. Secondly, just the password wouldn't be enough. You still have to be careful for those types of scams and those things going on because it's not a foolproof protection, but it's an extra layer. It's something else that somebody will have to do. And the people that are running these kinds of scams, they're not looking for, and we said in one of the previous ones, it's not, targeted Ocean's 11 heists. It's walking up and down the parking lot and checking the locked doors. So anything you can do to make it look just a little bit more difficult to get your car stolen is enough to make people move on to the next one. And it's the same thing. Anything you can do to make it a little bit more difficult for somebody to get into your account, they're not going to bother because there's so many other ones out there to try.
Better to park underneath the lamp, right?
Right.
So that makes it a little more visible. Awesome. Excellent. Thanks for that question. So I think we'll switch gears a little bit and show a little bit of practical things. Marianne's gonna jump in there and show us what is an MFA app? Actually, the question is, what MFA app should I use? How should I set them up for my personal, that sort of thing? Maybe that's a great way to segment into that.
What a really nice thing is that a lot of the companies nowadays are completely embracing MFA. So if you have Google, that's one that's really easy. They'll always try and get you to set up your MFA, and they'll walk you through the process. So they will. We actually walk you through the process as well, right there. But they'll say okay, you got to enter your password. We're going to send a text to your phone. Enter that text, and it'll walk you through that. Google's actually kind of funny though because they set up the either text message or call to get a code, which is very common, and a lot of people like that one. But then they offer, after you've already set that up, they offer you alternatives like the Google Authenticator. So, Justin, can you talk a little bit about how an authenticator works? I'll tell you just very basically from a user perspective. Instead of getting texted a code, the codes already exist on your, sorry for the glare, on your phone, and they just keep cycling through, and it's new.
So one of the first types of two-factor was that type of that token, and I don't know if some people remember the old RSA key fobs where it was like a physical thing that you held, and it had an LCD screen on it with numbers that would change. That's the same idea as what's in the authenticator apps that show you those codes, like Google or Authy or those. The idea is that when you first set up your account, there is a shared secret, basically a password, a very long, complex password that's in the when you set them up with the app, you do it through a QR code. What that does is now you and the service both know the password, and there is a crazy long math algorithm that takes that secret password code number and the time and comes up with those 6 digits. To think of it in an easier way, if I wanted to make a super simple one, I could say, all right, our passcode is going to be whatever the time is, and I'm going to multiply the time by 123. And that's going to be my 6-digit code. And so every minute, I'm going to get a new code. And if I ask Marianne, what's the code, we can both look at the time, 10:41. I'm going to pull up a calculator because I can't do that much math.
You don't have to do that much math.
Primes are involved, yes.
41 times
by 2
123 is 128043. So now, because we both know ahead of time that 123 is the code, and the math we're going to do is multiply them, I can say, give me your code. She could say that. I can do the same thing, and we can verify. Now, that's not a good example because it's way too easy for somebody to look at that and reverse engineer it.
Do the math.
So the real ones are far more complicated, but that's the basic idea. Is just if you both know something to begin with that only you guys know, and you do the math, do the work together, you'll always get the same answer, and then you compare those notes, and that's
the people knowing it in this case are actually your phone and the app that you're logging into.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, and there are a lot of these type of apps. I know some popular ones is Authy. There's some that are more for private and more for corporate. And I see a question coming in about some of the specific ones. The one I showed you was Google Authenticator. I also have Microsoft on here as well. Oh God, bad glare. And so then we got a question about the difference between Duo, which seems a lot more corporate, and Authy. So do you guys want to touch on that?
Sure.
Yeah.
The differences?
So Duo uses another type, which is called basically a push notification. So the app is on your phone, and instead of having the code, the app just asks you, hey, I saw that you were logging in. Yes or no, do you want to log in? And you just tap yes or no, and it puts you through. Duo is mostly used, like Stefan said, in like a corporate environment, because from the admin end, you can assign multiple applications to use it. Whereas Authy is great from the personal end, because your personal Google account, your personal Dropbox account, your personal bank account, they're not going to all work together. They're separate entities. There's no, structure over them that says, like, okay, you're all going to use this one thing.
Right.
What Authy does is the same as a Google Authenticator, that time-based code. I use Authy. A reason I like it is that you can back up your settings from it and encrypt it with a password and save that to your machine or their cloud, and then if you get another phone, you can just download the settings again. You don't have to reset everything up. You can also install it on more than one phone, so I have it on my phone and my tablet, and whichever one I'm using, I can use to two-factor. And
so for all you people who get the new hotness as soon as it comes out, the new Pixel, the new iPhone, Authy makes it so you don't have to re-scan everything and reset up all your authenticator apps. That's good.
Yeah,
actually, I'm sorry, Stefan.
The other way to what you can do, and it's a little bit of, you have to do it when you first set it up. When you set up your two-factor, if you take a screenshot or save that QR code or print it out and put it in a I keep important papers in a fireproof safe in my apartment. So I've got some of my QR codes from things that don't always give you a one-time code. So if I lose my two-factor, I can go set it up again with that QR code. It's basically, again, like the two-factor password, and I can go and redo that.
Right.
If you haven't done it when you start up, you have to go and reset it up to do it now, but it's something that you can do.
Also, what happens if you lose your two-factor? I mean, that's one of the ones that always I know people sometimes have this kind of argument, I don't want this. If I lose my if I'm traveling and I don't know if I lose my phone or my phone dies, how am I supposed to get online? I need this. I need this other work. I can't take a chance. How do you fix that? Besides taking screenshots.
Yeah, so if you haven't taken the screenshot and you're not using something like Authy or another one that backs it up for you, what you can do is check, and you have to go to each service that you're using, check. They will often give you a list of one-time codes that you can use. And those are in place of your password. You would use that one-time code, and it's a long string, something like 64 characters generated randomly, so it's not likely that anyone is going to guess or crack it, and you can use that to log in. I know Google has that, Dropbox has that, and what you do is you collect those, save them, print them out, put them in your fireproof safe or wherever you keep important things.
A lot of services also allow you, I mean, we're talking multi-factor, we're saying multi-factor instead of two-factor. They'll allow you to set up different factors as well. So you lost your phone, but you can also, if you had previously set up that it could call your house phone, if you still have a house phone, your work phone, if you have a physical work phone, you can make that. And you can usually, if you you can make that an additional factor, because it'll often on the thing where it says below is or log in a different way, and you might already have that set up, and so you can be like, oh, my cell phone's busted, but just it'll call my office phone with a code instead.
Awesome.
But I do see we got another question, and that's a good one. We're talking a lot about setting this up individually for people, but obviously, if business-wise, if there's a question from Copeland, if you want to roll it out to the organization, is it a pain in the butt? And that costs a lot of money. So, I mean, you guys can take this away, but
sure,
you should absolutely do this.
Mirror what Marianne said. It's probably the easiest, lowest cost thing that gives you the most security. If you are looking for like a service like Duo or Okta or something that's going to be an overarching setup, there's cost for that because you have to have the service. It's usually per user and it's low. If you're just looking for what can I do right away to get this set up, most services will have their own built-in two-factor to use the code. So like if you're using Office 365 or G Suite, you can, any of the licenses come with the ability to do that, and you just turn it on. There are added licenses that give you more features and more customization and other stuff that you can do, but you can just turn it on. The biggest thing that we find, and I know Marianne is involved in this, is the user training is the part that takes the most time, because you want to make sure that people know how to use the app, know how to set it up, and know how to get into their accounts before you turn all of that on. We find, and check me on this one, some people are familiar with it because they use it for everything, and some people have never used it before, so it's always a game of how long it's going to take to get everybody trained. But
it's true.
That's usually the biggest part of those kind of rollouts. The actual tech to turn it on is pretty straightforward and easy.
Yeah, well, and you know what, when we do the rollouts, we put in time for training. We can do it, have people available to walk people through the process, but we also make exactly what we showed before the Google one. We also have one for Office 365. So we have step-by-step with pictures on how to set that stuff up. So if you actually needed to have your people walk through the steps, they can just go to that website. We also tend to send it to people as a PDF if we're actually doing the process with them. And it's really simple.
It's absolutely. It's pretty easy to do. I mean, we've been doing it for years at Valiant and for our customers and just people we work with. And it's the one thing we say, everyone, just do it. It's painful at first, but once it's done, it's in place. People get used to using it, and it's over and done with.
And you can do things to limit how disruptive it can be with some of the more advanced tools. So you can set up, for Office 365 example, you can set it up so that if you're on a company-owned machine, and there's various ways to prove that it's a company-owned machine. But if you're on a company-owned machine, don't use that as the second factor, and then it becomes what you know is your password, and what you have is a company-owned machine. That's two factors, so you don't have to enter in a code. But then I go to log in on a my home computer or a hotel machine, and it's going to prompt me for a code, and that's the way to help secure it. There's ways to do it too, from if you're physically in your office and you're coming from your office internet, use that as a two-factor. It's what you know and what you have is a spot in the office, and that works.
Right.
Yeah, I think a lot of people face this with their bank accounts, and I know that mine said that I can remember a machine, so I don't necessarily have to two-factor every time. Because it knows my home machine. I actually made it so it doesn't know my work machine, just in case I forget to lock my computer.
That's
y'all shady.
Excellent. Yeah. Very much so. All right, so our final question, I guess, and then we can just kind of wrap it up, is if I have MFA, can I still be hacked? Am I still exposed? There's still danger?
Yeah, I mean,
always.
There's
yes. The answer is yes.
The one story that that I love to tell about this is this was more of a targeted as opposed to a car in the parking lot situation. The person's bank info got compromised, so somebody knew that they had his bank info. They knew that they had some information from him, and they were going to call him, and they called him and they said, calling from your bank, verifying your social security number, which they gave to him because they had it. So now he thinks he's on the phone with his bank, and they said, okay, you're gonna get a code texted to you. I need you to read me back that code so that we can unlock your account. What he was doing is trying to log into the guy's bank account. When the text came to his phone, he read it off to them, and they said, great, you're verified, you're all unlocked, and then logged into his bank account. So you still want to, even with two-factor, you want to protect that the same way you would protect your password. That if somebody is calling you and asking for it, especially from your bank, the first thing I do if I get one of those calls and it seems like it might be real, it's, if I'm like, this isn't fake. If I get a call from my bank or from someone, I say, okay, hold on, tell me what it's about. Great, I'm going to hang up and I'm going to call the number on my card and call back. And now I'm calling in, so I know that I'm at the right place.
Right.
And you're not calling the number that called you. You're calling the number on your card.
Yeah, correct. And
well, I guess when it comes to things like this, the thing is there's always, there's only so much tech can do. And that's why we always say educate yourself and educate your staff on looking out for scams, on knowing security best practices. That's why we offer a security best practice training annually to all our clients because of that. It saves us time and effort as well. We want you to be protected. So that's a huge thing.
Security is always a combination of the tech and the human aspect of it. It's still the most dangerous person is the persuasive social engineering type person who can talk you into giving away your secrets. So keep it in mind. The well-crafted thing, that sort of thing.
Know what the common things are. Yeah.
Exactly.
I guess I didn't find a cool way to bring this up, but one other piece of advice we talk, again, multi-factor instead of two-factor, you can exponentially protect yourself. If you are using any of those things that use your phone, put a password on your phone. Now that's good in general.
Yes.
But it also adds another factor. Let's say someone had your password or your email password and they had your phone. Well, they also need to get through your whatever recognition you have on here, whether it's one of the swipey ones, you have a code, you use your fingerprint, which I love. It's convenient and very secure.
Yes.
So make sure you have a password on your phone. And now this reference is a little dated, but when Kanye went to the White House, he unlocked his phone in front of all the cameras, so everyone saw his password. Doesn't matter anyway. His password is 0000. Don't make that your password. Get a strong password for your phone as well.
Yes, the numerical one's not the ideal. Ideally, the best one is the biometrics.
Definitely.
If the phone can support it, and also the phone gets encrypted. I know Androids and iPhones are encrypted in that when they use that kind of coding, and that's great. And actually, this might be a topic for another day about phone security, mobile devices. Not that anyone's going anywhere right now, but
still,
it's going to happen. So,
even just everyone's kids are home, so let's make sure they don't enter in your voice chat.
That's true. So I'm going to wrap it up here. If you guys have anything else you wanted to kind of final words, if not, we want to say thank you Please come back on Monday. We're going to have a talk about something else that's kind of an interesting topic, which is called co-managed IT. And we're going to talk about working with internal IT resources and teams to kind of give some of our managed services best practices to them and work together to kind of leverage what we learned over the last long time. So I think it's 16, 17 years, something like that. So
give your IT guys some support.
Yeah, exactly. Help them out, and especially right now when there's so many things going on, and keep them busy. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a great Friday. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Talk to you soon.
Have a good weekend, everyone.